So I remember when the Kyrie and Isaiah trade went down. I think I was pretty pro Cleveland in the move. The make it or break it point was if Isaiah was actually going to be healthy. Of course, we know what happened. He had that hip injury against the Wizards, and it's pretty much been it for the guy. And it's tough to know what else Cleveland really could have gotten for Kyrie. I mean, if you dive into stuff, perhaps there's other things there. I do remember there was something about a 3-team trade where they could have ended up with, like, Paul George or something. So that could have been kind of wild. Because I remember a thing with that Cleveland team was they had to get better defensively. And they managed to get worse defensively when trading Kyrie Irving. It was pretty wild. I remember there was some hope that Jay Crowder could be really good for that Cavs team as a, 3-and-D guy. That didn't work out either. The Nets pick ended up being Colin Sexton. We'll have to see. Sexton had a pretty solid second year, I would say. But I just remember there being a lot of opinions about this move, and I don't think there was a lot of consensus stuff besides that Kyrie was going to be great on the Celtics, and we'll get there. But for Cleveland's side, it became apparent pretty fast. Like, basically when Isaiah was finally ready to play, where it was like, oh wow, Cleveland, they kind of struck out on this one, Kyrie asking for a trade in general was pretty wild because it just came out of nowhere. It just seemed like it was going to be Kyrie and LeBron for the long term. And, many things have a lot of things really come out, though, because Kyrie's cryptic as hell. So I want to say that Kyrie has really said why he wanted to be out of Cleveland, but he really hasn't. I mean, if you look at enough things that he's said and you really dive into it, maybe he just didn't really like LeBron. Maybe he wanted to be the main guy on a team. I mean, he certainly did his LeBron impression when he got to the Celtics. And again, many things to be said there, and we'll get to it. But I don't know, Kyrie is so difficult to read that I still don't totally know why he wanted out of Cleveland. If there was one specific reason, I don't know. Maybe someday Kyrie's going to have a book, or there's going to be a documentary, something where Kyrie is just 100% open and candid about everything. He could also just retire and then be totally gone and never appear in the media ever. Like, seriously, I could picture that guy be in Europe just running like an alpaca farm or something. Are alpacas in Europe? I don't know. The point being, again, Kyrie's tough to read, and it's difficult to really know why he wanted out of Cleveland like that. But anyway, he wanted out. Cavs found themselves a move, and the Isaiah Thomas thing is, it's been talked about many times. The idea of where the Celtics, cruel, inhumane, whatever you want to say, for trading him. I mean, there's different ways to look at it. They traded him to a good team, so it's not like they robbed him of his chances of winning. Unfortunately, the injury just did him in at that point, and that's what did it. But, you can look at it like that. You can look at it as the way that it just literally happened, which was, of course, they traded a guy who went above and beyond after the death of his sister and, hurting himself and all that against the Wizards. I don't know. There's so many different ways to look at it. But from a pure basketball sense, it was the right move. I mean, not only did they just get off of Isaiah right before he got hurt, or right before it became apparent how hurt he was. Although there is some iffiness about how transparent they were about his injury. That's another thing, too. But they also traded for Kyrie on a 2-year deal. So it wasn't like a Paul George or Jimmy Butler thing where it's like, well, we'll get him for 1 year and maybe he's going to want to stay, maybe not. Like, they did give themselves a little extra insurance on Kyrie. But of course, what ended up happening in that now infamous Celtics season is what happened. Other things to think about is what if the Celtics never made this trade? Because this is another thing, it's people will bring up how the Celtics did Isaiah dirty, and this was a thing with Anthony Davis's dad. I don't want my son to go to the Celtics because of what they did for Isaiah. I mean, here's the thing. if the Celtics would have signed Isaiah to a big contract, they still would have never had a chance at Anthony Davis because they wouldn't have been a good team, and they would have been swamped with the worst contract in basketball. I mean, look, I love Isaiah, and I appreciate everything he did for the Celtics, and I really hope that he finds a place in the NBA again. But in terms from a pure basketball standpoint, giving him a big contract would have been a total disaster for Boston. So, I mean, there's probably some moral decision to be made amongst that whole thing, and if you want to dive into the details about the transparency of the injury and all that. Now, I guess another thing is if the Celtics didn't make that move, I mean, they would have still had the Nets pick, which could have become, I don't know. I mean, if we look at that draft, Sexton was picked number 8. If we look at the guys who could have been selected, I mean, maybe the Celtics select Shai Gilgeous-Alexander or something. Maybe they would have went with like Michael Porter Jr. I don't know. It's really impossible to tell. I feel like if they wouldn't have moved that pick in this trade, they would have moved it like the next season or something. Because I remember there was like a whole season where Cleveland had that pick, and it was this thing of, are they going to trade the pick and get LeBron some help, or are they going to keep the pick in case LeBron leaves? That was a whole conversation. I think they made the right move. I don't think there would have been any trade they could have made with that pick that would have given them a chance against Golden State. So at least they got Colin Sexton for it. I mean, I guess looking at how Cleveland did in the move, I guess it really just comes back to, like, could they have just salvaged the relationship with Kyrie? Don't really know. I mean, do we trust Cleveland's front office and stuff? I mean, Dan Gilbert's running the show. There's been a lot of things that would make us question Dan Gilbert's character, between the way he reacted to LeBron leaving and the fact that he just doesn't value general managers and just lets them go when their contracts are up, or whatever else. There's not a lot of nice things being said about Dan Gilbert out there, you know what I mean? And so it's like, okay, well, we're going to trust that guy and whoever he's hired, besides David Griffin, if Griffin was still there. I guess the timeline's a little weird there. Because I remember Griffin leaving, like, right in the middle of significant things happening for Cleveland, if anything, just from rumors, you know? So are we going to trust that to try to mend the relationship with Kyrie and, I guess, LeBron? I don't know, man. It's kind of tough. But I think that would have been the best option for Cleveland. I mean, maybe some other move would have been out there that just really would have been great for them, for Kyrie. There's no real way to know. I mean, you can Google some things, but trades sometimes happen out of nowhere. I mean, I remember when Jimmy Butler got traded to Philly, was anybody talking about the potential of him going to the Sixers? I don't really remember it being a thing, you know? So perhaps a similar thing could have happened with Kyrie. It does kind of make you think, like, if LeBron and Kyrie, or Kyrie and whoever, could have been on the same page, would LeBron have re-signed in Cleveland? It's LeBron and Kyrie and whatever Cleveland can build around them, or would LeBron have still gone to the Lakers? I don't know. I mean, I think that's something else that needs to be probably talked about, is like, did Kyrie believe that LeBron was just going to be gone, you know? Because I'm pretty sure the rumors of him to LA were happening before the last season with Cleveland. So if he would have just shut that down immediately, which of course, you know, he ended up going, so why would you shut it down? But maybe if that wasn't so much in doubt, then perhaps Kyrie would have just been like, all right, I'll stay. You know, me and LeBron, we can ride this out for however long. Kevin Love would have still been there. Or I don't totally know, because I remember they re-signed him, I think it was after the rest of this kind of blew over. So who knows what happens to Kevin Love in that scenario? Maybe they use him for some sort of a trade. I don't know. But we do know, in a weird way, like, who won this trade? Honestly, it was probably Cleveland in the end. Because we know what happened with the Celtics. And Cleveland got Sexton. So, yeah, Cleveland. They lost the trade and then they won the trade. It's wild to think about. Because, I mean, Yeah, Colin Sexton's not setting the world on fire, but it's still better than nothing.